This girl flopped her A-levels, got rejected from medical school, and had the attention span of a 2-year-old child. This woman, on the other hand, has just graduated medical school, is working full-time as a doctor, and occasionally manages to pump out a video or two that is hopefully mildly beneficial. Other than the dodgy Snapchat filter and 6 years, there is only one other difference: focus. The 3 F's formula for focus is what allows me to get into bed at night and not feel crappy and regretful and have low self-esteem because I've just wasted the day by procrastinating, but instead I'm able to get into bed feeling a little bit lighter. I can go into the next day feeling like I have less on my plate to tackle. The first F, Formulate, is all about planning your day. Now, as someone who gets distracted very easily, I think that most of us have so much going on. Our education, maybe at school, college, university, maybe a side hustle, maybe your job, maybe your friends, your family, so many plates spinning. And not only that, we have social media, we have constant attempts to buy our attention, and with everything whizzing around us, it is hard to stay focused on one task. A lot of the time I would rather just get straight into a task and get stuck in and get started and not waste time faffing about making a plan. But a lot of the time what happens when I do that is I get started and then something pops into my head, or someone comes into the room and I get chatting, or I start thinking about a random thought like, how do they colour Pussy Pigs pink? And just like that, my focus is shattered. It takes so much longer for me to get back into that headspace of completing that task, or I get distracted by another task, and it's just all a little bit of a mess. But there are tools that we can use to create a plan, but not just create a plan that we can stick to. Number 1, every single day without fail, if I want to get something done, I will do a brain dump. Essentially, it is what it says on the tin. You dump everything in your brain onto a piece of paper, and it does not need to be organised. It can literally be a word vomit of anything and everything that is not just in school, in your job, buying someone a birthday present, cleaning your toilet, whatever it is, it goes on the piece of paper. When I don't do a brain dump, I notice a huge impact on my mental health, on my stress, on my anxiety. I think that when we have so many different things whizzing around in our brain, it makes it very hard to not only concentrate on one thing, but also very hard to not worry about all of them and feel a little bit out of control and anxious. When I've got my brain dump, the next thing that I will do is try and organise and categorise my brain dump based on the priorities, what task is most important for me to complete. Also different areas of my life, I do sometimes like to categorise it under as well. And also if they're quite big tasks, then I like to break them down into smaller tasks. Then I think when you have the tasks that you are prioritising and what you want to complete that day immediately, I think it's really important to assign rough times for each of these tasks, and not only that, but give yourself a little bit of buffer room, because let's be honest, I'm very guilty of this. I never allocate enough time for a task. I think one of the reasons that I never actually stuck to any of the study plans that I made back when I was 18 is probably because I would miss out one element of that study plan, or maybe run over on something, and then suddenly, because I wasn't sticking to that study plan, everything was thrown off and I would just not stick to any of it. At the end of the day, none of us are fortune tellers, none of us are mind readers, none of us actually know how long a task will take, and giving yourself more flexibility and more wiggle room with a daily plan, in my opinion, kind of counterintuitively actually makes it easier to focus and easier to stick to. Now, obviously there will be things that come into your head that you haven't planned for in your plan. You're sat at your desk, you're cracking on, you're focused, and suddenly you remember that it's your mum's birthday on the weekend and you haven't sent a card. Don't worry, it's okay. Just don't break your focus and don't get distracted. Just make sure, for the love of God, that you have a piece of paper next to you by your laptop that you can jot down any thoughts that come into your head. Formulate, in summary, do a brain dump, prioritise, allocate rough times, but remember to keep it flexible, realistic and easy to follow. F, number 2, flow state. Now, personally for me, I'm not sure if everyone agrees, but the hardest part I find in any study day easily is getting started, and there's a science behind that. There is a reason. There is this thing called flow state, which is actually the enjoyment you get from doing a task when you are completely and fully immersed in it. If you've ever experienced flow state, it's actually kind of an incredible thing, and in this day and age when the world is so full of distractions and stimulation, it's actually quite a rare thing to come by. But once you're in that place of flow state, getting something done is so much easier. But unfortunately, flow state doesn't just just come for free. No, it comes at a cost of 15 to 20 minutes. That means that it takes 15 to 20 minutes of doing a task without any distractions for you to get into flow state. And I think for most people, doing something for 15 to 20 minutes without any distractions is actually incredibly rare, especially if you're in a busy place where people are chatting to you, whether they're talking to you, or you've got your phone on, popping up with all these different notifications. Every time you have a distraction, you start at the bottom. If getting to flow state is like walking up a hill and then getting to a flat bit at the top, if you're distracted between that 15 to 20 minutes, it's like rolling back down the hill and having to start all over again. So the way that I use the knowledge about flow state to remain productive for the entirety of a day is I make sure that I give myself those 15 to 20 minutes without getting distracted at the beginning of a task. This is holy time. This is the time that you need to visualize yourself off in one of those cabins in the woods where you literally cannot go on your phone. You are fully off-grid, uncontactable, because once you get through those first 15 to 20 minutes, everything gets so much easier. Now, the way that I like to do this, and I'm reluctant to promote them once again, when I'm not being paid to, I think I talk about them in every single one of my videos, I'm not seeing a penny, is Forest. I go on about it until the cows come home. It is an app where you set a timer and the tree grows for the amount of time of that timer. However, if you go on your phone before the timer has run out, the tree will die. And that seems like such a simple concept. Like, why do you care that a tree is going to die? A virtual tree, not a real tree. But it just works. It works for me. If Forest does cost money, if you are buying it on the App Store, I think it's free on Google. But if you don't want to spend that money, there's a similar app called Flora, which I am going to talk about, even though I don't use, because Forest doesn't want to sponsor me. But if neither of those apps appeal to you, then there is also do not disturb mode. There is the option of putting your phone in another room, making sure that you're in a quiet environment devoid of distractions, making sure that you have a cup of coffee on your desk so that you don't give yourself the excuse to get up off your desk to make yourself a cup of coffee, and a bottle of water on your desk, and make sure that you're in the optimum position to not be distracted for the next 15 to 20 minutes. Cheeky little plug, whilst we're here, I do have a video on how to get off your phone, which I will link here or somewhere, that may be useful if, like me, going on your phone is the biggest obstacle for you achieving basically anything. And the final F is do it. If only it was that simple, Faye, I would not be wasting my time watching this video. I will explain why this is one of the most important points in this video. When we are good at something, we enjoy it. I would always go to revise the topics that I was good at first, because I enjoyed it way more than revising the topics that I was rubbish at, feeling about myself, and thus my ego getting in the way and not wanting to revise anymore. We are all humans, and as much as we'd like to deny it, we are vain and our ego is precious, but the only way to get better at something is by doing it. I think part of the reasons I really struggled revising for my A-levels is because I just completely avoided studying the subjects that I was bad at, but then that made me worse at them, which made me less likely to study for them. And there are tools that I found really helped me push past that initial bit of resistance of not wanting to do something because you're not very good at it. Number one, my favorite one, the most simple one, is to make sure that you're splitting big tasks up into smaller tasks. Now, this can be small tasks that literally take 5 minutes. For example, if I'm trying to edit a YouTube video, I will break that down into edit the A cut, the thumbnail, add music, add B-roll, add animations, add clips. And once I've completed even something as simple as upload the footage onto my laptop, that requires absolutely no energy whatsoever, but the sweet dopamine kick that I get from putting a big old red line over something that has taken absolutely no effort whatsoever is actually what motivates me to keep going and move on to the bigger, more stressful tasks. Another thing that really works for me in terms of pushing past that initial resistance of just getting started is body doubling. And body doubling is basically completing a task in the presence of someone else who is also completing a task. And this works quite well, but only with a certain few individuals. Personally, for me, I find that body doubling, having there as an emotional support, but also a little bit of social connection, kind of makes the thought of getting started on a task a little bit more enjoyable. It helps you get past that initial resistance of just getting started. But also, there's definitely an element of pride involved, because when one of my friends is over there working hard, working away, grafting hard, my ego probably doesn't want them to look over and see me procrastinating and on my phone. And if I can weaponize my ego and my pride to try and get more out of my day and stay focused, then you know what? That is something that I'm going to do. Quick recap, the 3F formula to keep you focused. Formulate, make sure that you're planning out your day in a way that you can stick to. Do a brain dump, prioritize, and keep that plan within your line of sight so you do not lose focus from what you're actually trying to achieve in your day. Flow state, make sure that you are treating that first 15 to 20 minutes before you get into flow state as holy time, untouchable, undistractable, so that you can get to a place where you are actually enjoying and fully immersed in the task and everything becomes so much easier. Do it. When the more we do of something, the more motivated we are to keep doing it, and just getting started and pushing past the initial resistance is easily the hardest bit. Make sure that you're doing something to give yourself a nice little dopamine kick every time you complete a task, and if you're struggling to get started, maybe risk it and try and use a body double. If there's any other tips that you think that I've missed or you want to add, then please make sure to comment them down below, along with an emoji of your favourite F. Like, comment, subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful week, and I will see you in the next video.